Yeah, let's get into it, man. So Kanye actually, by the time you guys are listening to this, it dropped. You were on your way over here when it dropped. The Kanye West Jesus is King album. But before we actually tag into the album, he did an interview with Zane Lowe.
Okay.
And there's some things that he brought up that we need to kind of break down. All right, first of all, he asked everybody who was a collaborator on that Jesus is King album to not have premarital sex. Working on the album.
Yeah, while they were working on the album.
While they were working on the album. Let's chop that down for a second. Let's try to dissect that for a second. Like, I guess that's how he was feeling.
No, he's trying to be pure to the genre and the cause. I get it.
So if you were working on that album, whatever the case may be, and he asked you to do that, would you?
Yes.
You would not have sex?
I would. I would not. I mean, yeah, I would not.
Have sex.
I would not have sex.
During the process of the album.
During the process of the album. I would respect it. Especially if I was working on something. I mean, it's a gospel album, so I mean, yeah. I get it.
Okay.
And that just says that he was actually it just tells you that it's something that he really cares about, and it was something that he actually dove into 100%, and it's something that he's wholehearted into, and not just a ploy or a gimmick or just something different to just do to sell more records. So that tells me that he really in this moment. I mean, I can't say who Kanye is going to be a year from now. You can't say who Kanye is going to be a month from now. But in this moment, that it was honest.
Okay. I can respect that. I think that is one of the most dumbest ish I have ever heard in my life, yo. Like, me working on your album, you're going to tell me I can't have premarital sex, and you didn't have plenty of premarital sex.
But he's married now, so it doesn't affect him, Kanye.
Right. So now you are taking something of a life that you live. So just because I'm not married, now you're going to sit here and try to tell me how to live my life in the process of making this album.
But you're making my album.
Yeah, but don't ask me that.
Okay.
Don't ask me to come into. Yeah,
but that's a deal breaker. That's you crossing the barrier. I'm asking you.
But the way he was breaking it down, he had this epiphany in the middle while they were working on the album. You already working on the album. He's like, hey, you know what?
Well, that's different. I didn't know that.
Jesus is telling me I think you should stop having sex at this moment. And I still have a thing about someone telling me what to do in my personal life when you hire me for a job. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, if you charging somebody in this capitalist society, it's a job. I don't care if it's about Jesus. I don't care if it's about Allah. I don't care if it's about anything spiritual. When you put a price tag on it, it's about business. So if you're hiring me about my business, I'm not a fan of somebody dictating to me what I do within my personal life, especially because you're already married. Good and well, you didn't wait to have sex with your wife before you got married. Like, you know that. No one's going to wait to have sex with him.
Well, I didn't say, he's not saying that if you ever had premarital sex, because that's different. He's saying, could you refrain from it now while you're working on this album so you can have a clear, pure heart and pure head from that standpoint, which I get and I understand. And if you're wanting the privilege of working on this album, which is mine, this is one of the things that you have to come by, which I completely understand and I respect it.
I see that,
but I see your argument as well. I
still see that. That's like somebody telling me I can't do certain things within my own personal space. It's not like I'm having sex in the studio. I'm not bringing women around me. You know what I'm saying? And to be honest with you, let's take a little bit deeper. That might be how I create. Y'all saw the Biggie movie. You know what I'm saying? What if I feel better?
Well, I don't think that's what you need to do when you about to sing about the Lord. Anyway.
You never know. You never know. What is the quintessential difference, though? You never know, because we already are having this discussion about the fact that we're
all sinners.
Yeah, and we're including certain subjects that are quote unquote taboo, and we're mixing them in with God anyway.
Correct.
So now you want me to be like, what's that going to do with your album? So what if I go back to live? So let's say I follow that blueprint that you just told me, right? And then I go back immediately when the album is done, I'm starting having sex. So what if the pureness messes up the album sales or the streams now? Like, you think God really be like, hey, I don't want nobody having no sex or premarital sex while you talking about me? Like, come on, man. Like, especially like you said with Kanye, he changes his mind all the time. It's not like I'm working with Kirk Franklin. Like, if Kirk Franklin asked me that, I might, and I'm saying might, I'll hear him out.
Well, he's the one, he addicted to porn.
Yeah, but Kurt he's been consistent. I'm not talking about.
And he got some sides.
I'm not talking about that. What I'm saying
he had some side. Well, he had a buffet.
You're not hearing what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that if you're an artist, like, this is what you do. This is the lane you've been in for X amount of years. you just said Kanye changes his mind all the time. So I'm not going to commit to something, and by the time I commit to it, my girl mad at me, and then you might have forgot what you didn't say because you just wanted to go on a rant. That's what I'm talking about. And I'm saying people like Kirk Franklin or people like Fred Hammond, I'm not talking about they're pure. I'm saying they've been making this type of music for a long time. So if they were to ask me
they're
that,
consistent with the cause.
yeah, I'm saying if they were to ask me that, I would at least hear them out. I'm not saying I'll do what they said. I'll look at Kirk like, I don't mention everything you just said. Like, for real, sir? Maybe if you was having sex more, you wouldn't be addicted to porn. I don't know what to tell you. You know what I'm saying? I'd be feeling the same way. That's my only point when I'm saying that. So, that was one thing he also brought up. The other thing that's been bringing up in the case of this whole Jesus is King album is the whole argument about mixing God in with the songs. Because the thing is, a lot of people really technically didn't know what kind of music it was going to be. Because when he was doing the Sunday services, he was really just kind of performing old songs and doing rants. And also just, he'll perform Jesus Walks, but we didn't really know before an hour ago what this album was going to, be about. And so people had a little argument or a little, there was some gripe about it. And my thing is, you think that it's impossible, a person should they should intertwine what they call secular music with spiritual, non-secular music?
I'll say this for those people who have a problem with certain people making gospel music or certain people expressing themselves certain ways. It's like sometimes you got to speak my language to talk to me. Like if using analogies, if you speak English, okay, you're trying to save my life, but I speak Spanish. I can't understand what you're saying. You're telling me everything I need to know to save my life, but I just can't understand what you're saying because you can't get my attention. But if somebody Spanish comes along and speaks my language to me, I get it. And now I'm taking a run with it. Or I'll take it one step further. It's parents. Sometimes I'll take parents and coaches. All right. Say a kid, your parent tells you one thing, bop, 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 bop. You have a mental block in your head already set up. And it's for your parents. Like certain things, when they get to it, you're just gonna tune it out. It's gonna go in one ear and out the other.
Right.
And your football coach, that's my guy. That's coach. That's coach. Blah blah blah. That's my man. He'll go and say the same thing, and you'll take it and run with it. You got to speak my language. You got to get my attention before I can actually pay. You got to get my attention first before I listen to what you're saying. So sometimes, you can take it a step further. The Army, you got to use different weapons to get to certain assets or get to certain enemies or whatever. Because, like I said,
you can't use a 45 to sniper somebody.
Correct.
Right.
You can't use a 45 to sniper somebody. Like now, the Army's weapons that they used in the 80s aren't the weapons that they use now.
No, not at all.
Absolutely not. So that's not going to work for this generation.
The weapon y'all got on the street is the weapons they used in the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, I'll take myself for instance. Like I wrote down and listened to the album, and I listened to the whole thing straight through, and it had my attention straight through because he had my attention.
So before we,
would Kurt Franklin do that for me? Probably not. Right. Would Donnie McClurkin do that for me? Probably not.
So I'm with you in that scope as far as you guys speak my language. I totally understand where you're coming from because how many times, and you use football, how many times have we seen it where a coach was always able to get his team to the playoffs, second round playoffs, conference playoffs, but they can never actually win it, right? And then another coach come in that first year, and that team go all the way and win. Tampa Bay with Tony Dungy.
Golden State Warriors,
right? Literally that first year, right? But it's almost as if it's like sometimes it takes a new voice because you're right. Consciously, you already develop a certain type of defense against certain people based upon what you feel about them. So, for example, when you tell me, if a friend send me a Donnie McClurkin track, because I'm not a gospel fan, and I grew up in Detroit where gospel was heavy, right? It's weird because in Detroit, it's like we like the most gangster-ish stuff that pops off, and we also got the big, huge mega churches, and a good 80% of your gospel legends come from Detroit. The Winans, Fred Hammond, all these individuals come from there, right? But for me, it was never my vibe, right? So if I see a link that come through my phone, and this person say, "Yo, man, you need to hear this realest in the streets," and I see Fred Hammond, I'm gonna be like, because I never felt anything spiritual coming from that type of music. When I was coming up, I really did feel something spiritual when DMX and Pac and Biggie were talking about it because
and DMX did the prayer.
It was real. For me, I need realism is important to
because
me.
You related to it. That was someone that you identified that had some of the same struggles that you had, and you saw him had those struggles, so you see him as somebody like you, so you understand where he's coming from.
I'll be honest with you, it wasn't even so much about. Yes, that helps. So I don't want to act like relatability doesn't count. For me, relatability is a cherry on top. Because I'll be honest with you, when Wu-Tang first came out, I didn't know what them niggas was talking about. You talking about speaking Spanish, all that peace guy, whatever. That ain't my minute. I didn't know what a 5%. I didn't know what none of that stuff was, right? So I had to grow into understanding what they were talking about. But to your point, what I would say is when somebody was speaking to me like that, or with DMX, to me, it's a realism that comes with you having sex 1 minute, but you shooting somebody 1 minute and then praying to God about another minute. Because to me, that's real life. Like, there are real people I know that were going through that anxiety. When I saw some of the big homies on my block, and those dudes that were shootouts. Remember, some of those guys also went crazy. We don't talk about them enough, but some of them, quote unquote, had mental sickness, and that's PTSD and all of that. Yeah. So you can 1 minute be in the streets. But then you can also, especially if you came up in a Christian background in our neighborhoods, you can also feel guilty about that.
Yeah, it's a real balance and a real juggle.
Exactly, it's a real juggle. So that's why with DMX and all of them, I felt that. So to come back around to that, I think Kanye is maybe the perfect person to have like a gospel album in that sense and to talk about those subjects. And
also without Kanye making Jesus Walks, there is no Lecrae. There is not a lot of gospel rappers which birthed the Jesus Walks. Jesus Walks birthed the whole genre.
That was the first gospel rap album that we heard.
It wasn't an album. It was just a record. It was just a record.
You're right. That was the first gospel record album that we heard that was actually good. Because let's be honest, when we heard other Jesus records, they were corny.
Yeah.
They were really, really corny. And it turned you off. Anytime the only person who even rapped on a song that was gospel is when we heard Stomp by Salt. Mm-hmm. That was the closest. Mm-hmm. But anybody else who came up with it, they was like, yeah, Jesus, throw your hands in the air. We were like,
because anybody else that came from that wave, came from that culture that even thought about it would have talked themselves out of it. Before Jesus Walks is what I'm saying, and that birthed the whole movement. Like I'm saying, I really don't believe you have a Lecrae who was amazing without Jesus Walks.
I'm gonna say I don't think you have a lot of them without DMX. I think Big and Pac threw mentions and they would say God help.
That was step one. That was throwing the seeds, but Jesus Walks kind of just flipped the table.
Yeah, but X also. It's because X had profanity. X had songs that were strictly about God. That was all about God. They were more heavy about God than Jesus Walks, but it was the profanity. And they didn't play it on the radio, and it didn't become a chant record. Jesus Walks was a song that you can play on the radio. That's the only difference.
Okay, but there was also more civil rights leaders before Martin Luther King.
Yeah, but I'm saying...
But he's the one that moved the needle.
Yeah, he moved. He's the one. He was the face.
He was the face. That's what I'm saying. That's what Jesus Walks was.
But I'm with you on that. I'm not disputing that. But I think there were a lot of rappers who also looked at X too. I think a lot of people looked at X and was like, "Yo," because remember X was actually doing prayers.
Yeah, but this is 6 years prior.
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't think my argument was I don't think X gets the props enough when it comes to bringing in. Breeding the artists that you talk about, I say I don't think X gets the props.
Absolutely, because X was high as hell, and he was really going through things because he was going through what's it called? He was going through detox, and he was getting high, and he was
all that
present PTSD. He was going through all these things, so you get a lot of real, genuine thoughts that come out, and that's what we got on those first two albums.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Jesus Walk don't get the credit, and it didn't help breed some of those people. But I also think that a lot of people did look at X also too, because X was doing 10-minute prayers at the shows. You know what I'm saying? Like,
for me to suffer, for my brother to see the light, give me pain till I die. Yeah. Lord, just treat him right.
I don't think that it's a problem with mixing any of that. With that, I don't think it's a problem with mixing. The guy. I think the problem is Kanye. I think my issue is.
I don't think there's a problem. Jesus always said in the book, it says, "Come as you are, speak to me as you are." Yeah, and it's honest.
Yeah, I'm not tripping about that. I was tripping more about the fact that I don't really feel the energy around this album because I feel like I'm tired of Kanye. Like my personal gripe is with Kanye, and it take a lot for me. Me and you, we've been in this game for a minute. We've been able to detach a person's personal life versus their actual artistry for a long time. Kanye beat me senseless as far as how I feel about him. His last couple albums were mediocre. You know what I'm saying? His rants, the things that he do, even the Sunday service stuff, when he was talking about, Christians want to feel like this and rant. And on the side note, him coming to Howard, I just want to let everybody know, we didn't know about that. All right? Okay, I'm going to be 100.
Get us out. Get me out of that.
Okay, they actually, no, I mean, they did. They snuck it because it was a rumor that Friday night, I'll never forget, I went to the Old Howard Gala. Shout out to my class. And it was a rumor Friday night. One of my friends who work at the radio station, HRR, she put me to the side and she asked me, she was like, yo, you know about Kanye coming tomorrow? I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, you ain't hear? It's a rumor that he's coming.
Yeah, I knew about it. I told you.
No, I'm talking the night before I saw you.
Oh, okay.
She told me, she said, it's a rumor that he's coming tomorrow. I'm trying to see what's up. I said, I ain't know nothing about it. Then the next morning, that's when you and I saw each other and he had just did his thing. But none of us knew because alumni, it would have been a little bit more controversial if we would have known Kanye was coming. I can tell you that off the top because there was a lot of us that were not there. What you saw when you saw people in that video celebrating him and he showed up, those are people who, you know how Howard is. They were already on the yard.
Just randomly out there.
Right, but the perception of it is, oh man, Howard had, and I'm not saying he can't show up. What I'm saying is there's a reason why they kept it under wraps. Okay, that's all I'm saying. There's a reason why they kept it under wraps because you're going to have an opposition to people who are going to be like, nah. And I'm saying right now, when it comes to Kanye, my feelings on him is just as, I just don't know, man, because he's been on this thing lately. And I don't know if I can really forgive this whole thing he's been on when it comes to Trump. You know, I don't know if I can forgive all the stuff that he didn't say and he doesn't read books. Shout out to Dr. Carr who said that if Kanye West is on campus, see him in his classroom because he got some books for him to read. The Miseducation of a Negro is one of them, and unquote. And that's a real statement. Like some of the stuff that he said, man, it just stick with me. And I just ain't really been having an urgency of feeling his music, I would say. I'm not saying I'm not going to listen to it. Me and you listen to it, and we're going to get into it. But I'm not saying I don't really feel like it was an urgency around it.
So you haven't listened to it?
No, I did.
Oh, okay.
I did. I just said, but you know how back in the day when Ye told you he was getting ready to drop, it was like, I was like everybody was like, I just don't feel that same energy.
Well,
right
that's because the album was supposed to drop every Friday for the past month.
Okay, yeah. And it was supposed to be called Yandi at first, remember?
But it was supposed to drop every Friday for the past month.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's true.
So for the past 4 weeks, it's dropping Friday.
That's true.
And then Friday, it's dropping Friday. And this Friday it's dropping Friday.
That's
and
true.
this Friday, it actually dropped.
That's true. That's real. That's real. That's real.